We're going to talk prioritizing prayer at VBS, and I want to invite my friend Renee to join me. Renee is a VBS specialist at her local church. Renee, tell us a little bit about you and how long you've been doing VBS.
I am I am from North Carolina. I am the Surrey Baptist Association VBS director for our association, and I do it for my church. And I think this is about 41 years that I've been doing Vacation Bible School.
Oh, okay. You might have me beat. Well, I met Renee for the first time this year via Zoom. I haven't met her in person yet, but a couple of years ago, she was on one of our webinars and she had this great idea for my Easter egg extravaganza about magnets. And so I stole that idea right away. And anyway, we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And this year I said, hey, why don't you help me with a couple of webinars? And so here she is. So glad you're with me tonight. And I think you have some really good ideas when it comes to prayer. So we're going to go ahead and get started because it is so important that we prioritize prayer for Vacation Bible School. Because if you're the VBS director or you're a classroom teacher, you know how busy you're going to get with Vacation Bible School. And so it's so important that we prioritize prayer and make sure that prayer is happening when it comes to Vacation Bible School. So my question to you is, how are you prioritizing prayer for your VBS? And so I hope that you'll go ahead and put some of those ideas into the chat, and we'll certainly talk about them as we go, because I'm always looking for some good ideas. I've got some extra prizes, and I want to give them away. So help us to find some really good ideas to emphasize prayer at Vacation Bible School. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I think I have three questions that I want to pose. Why is praying for VBS so important? Why is praying for VBS so important? Well, I think it really boils down to what the Bible says, and that the Bible is clear about the challenges of ministry, and we just need to be prayed up. We just need to be prayed up. And we know from the get-go that there are going to be challenges, and something that Melva didn't mention in her session, but certainly worth mentioning, is that we're going to have children that come to Vacation Bible School that aren't going to be behavioral problems, but they're going to have some special needs. We're going to have children that come that have special needs, and so those are going to be challenges for those of us that don't have a special needs ministry at our church. But it's funny. One of the things I wrote down at the end of Melva's presentation, I wrote down that God is sending specific children to your VBS and my VBS this year just for us. I want you to think about that. They're coming to our Vacation Bible School. We've not met them yet. But God knows that he's going to send these specific children just for us. And in order for us to be ready for them, we really need to be prayed up. And, a couple of scripture verses I think that are so important, that it says that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, and the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh. And so, in another verse that talks about the enemy is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour. And it's funny, Renee, last night you mentioned that the verse, right? So what
Exactly.
precipitated that comment to me last night?
I was in the middle of preparing some stuff for my conference here in North Carolina. We are
Uh-huh.
getting ready to do our conference in person on Monday night, and I was typing some tip sheets.
Uh-huh.
And I just got to thinking, and I thought, when it comes to the unexpected of Vacation Bible School, and I thought that verse had to have been written with VBS in mind thousands of years ago. That had to have been inspired from VBS.
Yeah, because I mean, we are going to have challenges. And I think a lot of times it's the fact that we're just, we just we don't think that we need to really be super prayed up. We think, oh, it's just not a big deal. I've done it for 41 years. It's all going to come easy. It's not a big deal. But you know what? Every single year, Vacation Bible School is going to be something different. And we just need to make sure that we're prepared. And prayer needs to be the foundation of your Vacation Bible School ministry. Because think about it, if you're building a house, you've got to have this foundation. And that's what prayer is to any ministry, but especially to VBS, because, VBS is usually just 1 week and it's a few hours and it is chaos usually every single night or day. It's some type of chaos. And so it's so important that we lay that foundation of prayer before Vacation Bible School even happens. And Renee's going to talk about this in a few minutes. And praying for Vacation Bible School is so crucial because it connects the event to God's work and we're seeking his guidance. When we're a teacher, guess what? We need to be asking God's guidance about what we should be presenting. And again, I know we have great curriculum and it's set up for children, of different ages and all that, but we still need to pray up for ourselves and get filled up so that we can teach out of our overflow to these kids or youth or adults, whatever class you're teaching. And so we need to be making sure that we are seeking his guidance as we go along. And so that's why prayer is so important for our Vacation Bible School. And I hope that you won't take it lightly. And that's why we do a whole webinar on it. That's how strongly my team feels about how important Vacation Bible School is and prayer. So now the second question is, so how do you keep prayer a main focus of your VBS? How do you make sure that you keep prayer a main focus of your VBS? And I know I'm going to get a lot of disgruntled sighs when I mention this, but I think it begins with enlisting a prayer coordinator for VBS, right? And I
Absolutely.
right. And I know people are thinking, yeah, but I don't even have enough people to do VBS, right? But I get that. I really do. But there must be a person in the midst at your church who you would say is passionate about prayer, is passionate about prayer. And it doesn't have to be somebody who is who's teaching Vacation Bible School. Wouldn't you say that, Renee?
Absolutely. There's always someone who can't actually get out there and chase kids that will pray for you.
That's right. That's right. And so those are the types of people. That's the type of person that you want. And you want to encourage them. You don't have to be a part of our Vacation Bible School, team and be there every day of Vacation Bible School. But you know what? I bet if they're part of the praying for VBS, guess what? They're going to want to be there so that they get to know the kids, the people they've been praying for, perhaps. So I think that that's important. And a prayer coordinator, which is the thing I like, will organize and promote prayer efforts. Now, if you're the VBS director, right, what are you doing? You're coordinating curriculum. You're coordinating a schedule. You're coordinating some decorations. You're coordinating all sorts of different things. But if you can say to a person, can you think of organizing prayer efforts for Vacation Bible School? And it could be maybe 2 or 3 things. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but I will tell you, if you get a coordinator who gets excited about doing this, you'll have a repeat person for a long time to come because they'll get passionate about what they can do to promote prayer efforts at Vacation Bible School. And then it's going to free you up as the VBS director so you can give away leadership. Because isn't that the point? As the VBS director, you want to give away leadership. One of the things I hope you're doing as VBS director is finding a co-director so that you can at some point pass on being the director and then find someplace else to serve. But isn't our job to give away leadership? And this would be a good, I think, opportunity to do this, is to give away leadership by finding somebody who is really passionate about prayer and invite them to be the VBS coordinator for prayer. I think that's a great thing. So what should a powerful prayer strategy for your VBS include? So let me, and perhaps put some of these in the chat. I'm sure Renee will watch for me, but perhaps some of these things you should think about including. Make sure you include specific needs, because there are going to be specific things that you want to be prayed for. And we're going to talk about specifics in a bit. If you have a powerful prayer strategy, it is going to involve everyone. It's going to involve everyone, because even if they're not part of VBS, everybody can pray. Everybody can pray. But it's going to go back to that first one, focusing on specific needs. Somebody has to give them something to pray about. And so that's why involving everyone is a possibility. And make sure there's a regular emphasis on prayer. Now, just think about it. When's your vacation Bible school happening? Now, my vacation Bible school at our church isn't happening till August, right? So now it's end of March. So I have April, May, June, and July. So I have 4 months to do some specific things in relation to prayer. And so, with my prayer coordinator, I'm going to challenge them to do 4 things, one thing a month that could emphasize prayer at our vacation Bible school. 4 things. And I'll even give them some ideas. And again, I think this is what this kind of forum is here, is we can give you some ideas so you have a jumping off place. But make sure that there's a regular emphasis on prayer from the get-go. And then utilize some different methods to keep the spotlight on VBS. And that's something we're going to give you some good ideas when it comes to some different methods you could do for Vacation Bible School. So those are the 3 questions that I want to emphasize tonight is, how do you, why is prayer so important? How do you keep prayer the main focus of your VBS? And what should a powerful prayer strategy for your vacation Bible school include? So we've talked about the 3 questions. So now let's think about how we can incorporate prayer before, during, and after VBS. And so Renee's going to take it from here.
Okay, so we always talk about vacation Bible school. We always talk about how important the gospel is, how important the Bible stories are, but those things are definitely important. But if we have not bathed those things in prayer, and I'm preaching to the choir here, because how often do we jump out of bed or we start on a project for kids ministry and we have to think, oh, wait, I forgot to pray about this morning. And we just jump right in because we're excited about it. And we forget sometimes. And we don't do it all the time, obviously, but there's occasionally that we forget to pray. And I'm sure that God's sitting up there with the angel and he's like, there she's gone rogue again. Go get her. Go get her, buzz her. If I had a shot collar on, I would probably get shot many times a day sometimes. So I know that he's got my angel up there buzzing me and saying, remind her to pray. She's gone rogue again on me. But, we want to make sure that we're praying for VBS. That's the first and foremost thing, because if we're not, the gospel plan that we present it's not going to be presented in the way that God would have us to present it. It's not going to be, our VBS is not going to be planned and prepared for in the way that he would have us to plan for it. And so I think the first thing we need to plan for is just a great big huge umbrella over our VBS for the planning and the preparation and the provision of it. Probably, the success of our program, first and foremost, is going to depend obviously on that prayer and God's provision for it, and his guidance in the planning, and us following and executing his plan, not our plan, but his plan. And so we definitely want to be much in prayer for what God would have us to do and start out there, and not go rogue as sometimes we do because we're spinning plates as children's ministers or children's leaders. We're right now, we're in the midst of planning Bible school. We're planning Easter. We're planning Mother's Day events. We're planning so many things. So we're spinning plates. And we sometimes, like I said, we jump in and then we have to take a step back and say, oh, wait, I forgot to pray about this morning. Let me take a moment, pray about it, and then follow God's plan for this. So we want to pray first and foremost over the whole thing. Then we're going to break it down into little sections here. And then maybe we start to pray over the spiritual preparation of it and that aspect. And we're going to pray for the hearts of the children, the volunteers, and all these people to have a meaningful impact or a meaningful experience. And we want this VBS to have an impact on their lives, to be a lasting impact, one that will be there for years to come, not just a fleeting moment of their summer. We want it to be something that they will look back on and think about that and see how it touched their lives for years before. We want to pray for our volunteers, and we want to lift up our teachers. We want to lift up our helpers and all those that are involved. And this is a word that I told Sandy that I had a hard time saying sometimes. It's patience. Because when I pray for patience, I know I'm going to get a lesson. And God's going to teach me that lesson. And so I tell her that sometimes when I pray for that, I try to work my way all the way around it when I'm praying for it. I'll pray for help, kindness, gentleness. Give me strength, Lord. I will pray for everything except for saying that word. And one of my youth looked at me one day and she said, Nene, don't you think God really knows what you're trying to pray for here without that you're not saying it? And I'm like, I know he's smart enough to know, but I'm still not going there because I'm afraid of the lesson he's going to teach me. And so, but we want to be praying for our leaders and our volunteers because we want them to have guidance from God. And, they're serving in ministry. And we want them to realize this is a ministry. It's not just snacks. It's not just rec. It is a ministry that they are serving God through VBS. And we want them to be following God's guidance in this. So we want to pray for them so that they see that, for one, and that they're seeking his guidance as they prepare to teach and lead these kids. The next thing I would say is our outreach. We want to be praying for all those who will be coming to our VBS, that they'll come to know Jesus through our VBS, and that they'll grow in their faith, and that they'll be open to hearing the gospel, and they'll be receptive to hearing it, that they will also be willing to respond to the Holy Spirit. And, some kids may have already made a decision. They may have not really understood what they did. So maybe they just really need to do a rededication. Maybe some kids need to actually just grow deeper in their faith. And so sometimes there's just kids there at our VBS that might be just our church kids if we're small churches, and that's okay. And if so, then we just need to make sure that we're teaching in a way that those kids can grow deeper in their faith while they're there. So we need to be praying for lots of different areas in outreach, and as far as the spiritual aspect of it, not just for kids to come to know Christ, but for our other kids who have accepted him, for them to grow deeper in their relationship with him. The other thing is first-time students. And I'm going to share a story real quickly with you. First of all, I want to ask you, is your church a welcoming church? Do people feel welcomed when they walk onto your church grounds for that first time? And a way you can do this is to take a step back and look. Come Easter Sunday, come Mother's Day, just sort of take a step back and look. Are people going up to individuals to welcome them to your church that morning? And I was invited when I was in my 40s. I was invited to a church by a friend for their Christmas play. They were outside parking the cars, and they said, "I'll be in a minute." And I said, "Okay." Well, when they came in, I was sitting there, and they said, "Oh, well, I'm glad you found a seat. I'm going to sit with my family." And so they didn't offer for me to come sit with their family. They didn't offer to sit with me, which that was fine. I'm a grown person, but at the same time, I saw how being a newbie at a church would have felt if that had been me. And then when I got ready to leave, they were still talking with their family and all these things that people were coming up to them. Not that very many people. I saw one person that I knew from work that came up to speak to me. Other than that, that was it. And so I realized real quickly what it was like to be a person sitting on the outside, walking in, even at the age of 40 something, and realizing, hey, wait, this is an odd feeling. And so being invited by someone that, it was just a very odd, weird feeling. And so I realized then I need to do better. And I want to make sure from now on, I knew then I needed to make sure I did better. And so we all need to take a step back and make sure our churches are welcoming. And we want to pray over that to make sure our churches are that kind of church. We want to be prayed up on that issue and see how we can be a better church when those people come to our church. So be praying about that. How can you change what you're doing? How can your church become that church that you really want to be, and promote that feeling of a family when they come to your church that very first time? You want them to feel that sense of community, and that's what you want to pray for, is that they get that feeling when they come to your church. So now we have prayed before VBS, and of course that's not everything. There's so much to do before VBS, and we can't hit them all. It's like Sandy said, we're just giving you some jumping points here. And by the week of VBS, I'm going to tell you, if you don't look like a rabid raccoon, you're going to start to look like a rabid raccoon by the week of VBS. Okay. It is cuckoo bananas. It is all hands on deck. And quite honestly, you are worn out before it starts. Okay. You don't have time to pray at this point because you are running hither and thither. You're praying while you're brushing your teeth in the morning. You are praying on the way to brush your teeth. And you need a prayer team. If you don't have a prayer team at that point, I don't know what to tell you, honestly, because you need those people praying for you at that point. You're going to be so worn out before VBS starts sometimes, because Satan is throwing daggers at you because he doesn't want your VBS to succeed. So you need that prayer team. You need to be praying. And you want to continue to pray for the children. First and foremost, you want to be praying for those children. You want to be praying for their safety. You want to be praying for their well-being. You want to be praying for that spiritual growth within them, within their families. There's so many kids nowadays that they are the ones that go back to their parents, and their parents, they tell their parents about Jesus. Their parents, they start to hear about Jesus. They make a profession. So we need to be praying for those children, that their spiritual growth happens, and then it just explodes into the families, so that there's just an explosion of all these things happening within the family, that it just, so there's just exactly. Somebody just said pray big. I think it was somebody said pray big. I just saw that pop up in the chat. So we definitely want to be praying big for these kids and their families. So we want to continue to do that. And then our leaders and volunteers. I said we want to pray for them, but we're VBS tired. By about day 2.5, day 3, we're still VBS tired. And some people are starting to get a little cranky by now. We're out of our norm. We're running to work. We're coming home. They're picking up kids. They're dropping off visiting kids, dropping off the neighbor kids. You're praying in the car. They need strength. They need wisdom. They need endurance. There's so much that these leaders and volunteers need at this point, because they need to be able to see that hump that they're going to cross over and make it to the end of the week, that they're going to survive this and it's going to be great. We're going to have a great week and Satan is not going to win. He's not going to defeat them. We're going to have a wonderful week of Vacation Bible School. And all these things that he keeps throwing at them, just let them know, keep praying for them so that they know that he's not going to win, to keep pushing on, keep doing what they're doing, and keep teaching those kids, keep pouring out on them. We want them to have the strength that they need to make it through the week. We want to pray over our activities. As I said, there's no free time in Vacation Bible School. And when I say that, there's songs, there's crafts, there's missions, there's music. And we want to be praying that all those activities lead those kids back to the central story and the message of the theme for the night. And so we want to be praying that everything brings these kids back to the central thought for the evening. And when we're walking from class to class, we want to pray that we're using that time to in a way that maybe it's an I Spy game, a simple thing of an I Spy game with the story on it. And each kid maybe gets a chance while we're waiting in line for the next class to finish up. And they can look at that. And it's something that keeps them from being so jumping off the walls. But we're still pray and ask God to give you these things that will help direct their attention and still keep that thought process centralized for the night, and just that their activities go well and that they're still, for those kids to have that aha moment, that it really makes sense for them and you get to see it. That's the best part of it, when you get to see that aha moment that they've put everything together for the night. So pray for those kids. We want to pray for our gospel message. Our gospel message, I say sometimes that medicine is no longer child-proof, it's adult-proof, because we usually are the ones that can't get in it, but a toddler can get in it and run with it before we could get our hands on the bottle, the medicine bottles. So, and we tend to overcomplicate things and overthink things as adults. So I always say we need to make things simple, that an adult can understand it, because the kids usually get it sometimes. But we as adults tend to overcomplicate it, overthink it. We want to make sure that the gospel plan, we want to pray that we present it in a way that it is clear and God leads it. We let the Holy Spirit direct us in that, and that we are following how God would have us to present that message, and that we are doing it in a way that it would be pleasing to Him, and that it is not overcomplicated, that it is easy enough for the child to understand it as well as for the adults to understand it. And again, that we just don't overcomplicate things, and that we pray that God gives us the words for whomever is delivering that message, that they can actually deliver it in a way that it's simple enough that people can say, I get that. I understand it. I know what I need to do. And they can make that decision. We want to pray for the spiritual growth in our church, that our kids are making meaningful connections with God through VBS. And again, as I said, we want these kids to grow deeper in their relationship, whether it's just our church kids that's already made a profession, it's other kids from other churches. We just want kids to have that connection with God, and because they may leave your church and they may never come back to another church. And so we want to make sure we're praying over it, and we're doing everything we can to give them that connection that they need before they leave our churches. We want to pray for the safety of everyone. Again, folks are tired. They're traveling from one place to the next. And so we just want to pray for the general safety of everyone as they go from one place to the next, and our travel back and forth throughout the week, and making sure that everyone's safe in getting there, that we have safety within our churches, safety on our playground equipment. We just want to look at all these things, pray that God leads us to look at all the different areas that we need to consider as far as safety and security and all those other things that take place at VBS that sometimes we forget to think about, but we want to ask God to bring those things to our mind so that we don't forget them. Connections with families. This is a big one. And we want to make sure, as I said, that we are making connections with families. That's what VBS is all about, is getting those families into our churches. We want these families to see that our kids are loved from the moment they get out of that car for the very first time. We don't want to wait. There shouldn't be an awkward 5 or 10 minutes even for that parent to stand there and wonder where my kid goes, what should they do? Do they go to this group? Do they go to that group? Do we enter this door? Do we enter that door? We don't have to meet them at the car door. We don't want to scare them off, but we should not have, there should not be awkward of 5 or 10 minutes that they're trying to figure out where to go and what to do. There should be someone there to shake their hand, welcome them, and let them know that they are loved and part of a family just as soon as they walk into that grass off the pavement. Just let them know that we love them. And there is a prayer card in the administrative guide for Lifeway, that there is a prayer card that there's 5 days, I believe, of prayer. And it doesn't say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or anything like that. So you can designate it depending on when your VBS, if it's a weekend or 5 Sundays or whatever. And you can just use that. And it gives people in your church 5 days of things to pray for. And you can just write out beside those what those days are. So if it's 5 Sundays, the dates. If it's a Friday, you can double up on them or whatever. If it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But get those prayer cards out. Give them to the folks in your churches. There are saints in your church that will pray for you. And you need them during that week of Vacation Bible School. Okay, so VBS is over. You can finally rest. You can kick up your heels. That's over. It's done with. You don't have to do anything else, right? It's over with. Wrong. My angel just buzzed me again. Just gave me another buzz in the neck back here. You now need to pray more now than ever, because you want to pray. You have planted some seeds. You've watered them. They've started to germinate, and they've started to sprout. Okay, those seeds have started to sprout. Those little seeds have started to sprout in those kids' minds and their hearts. And as I said, those kids may not be able to be at another church until the end of summer, when you do an end of summer blast or maybe a fall festival. They may feel like, or they may not get to come back to church at all. If they feel like they've aged out of your Easter activities, they may not come back at all before next VBS. And so there's going to be a year of a lapse before they're back in church, possibly. And if you're only doing up to 6th grade, if you're only doing to a certain age of youth, they still may feel like they've aged out and they don't want to come back. Your church may be the only time that they ever get to hear the word of God. And we want to pray that we have done all that we can, and that we have prayed over that child, that we've prayed over our VBS in a way that we have shared the gospel, that we have that we're going to follow up, and we're going to continue the growth for these kids. We want to make sure that we are following up on the kids that are making salvation decisions. We are following up, that our follow-up team is doing their job, and that we're helping these families get involved in some sort of activities, Bible studies, Awanas, Teen Kids, something like that. If they're new to the area, help them find a church. If it's not your church and they don't know what churches are there, help them find a church. If they're looking for something closer to their home, help facilitate that. It doesn't matter if it's not your church, just get them in a church. And sometimes it's discipleship is just helping the parents, equipping the parents, maybe getting that I'm a Christian now piece in there. So if God's leading you to take that piece out to their home, pray about that. We want to pray for the continued growth of these families, and so in their spiritual walk. So we want to make sure that we're helping get those pieces out there to those families, and whatever it is that God's leading us to do through that to help them continue their growth in that we're doing that. And so we want to pray and ask God where he's leading us to help those families grow in that area. Our other prayer focus might be the ministry and the relationships that they have. Of course, we want God to bless all of our follow-up efforts for years, weeks, months, years to come. Sometimes it's, we keep following up, we just don't see any reciprocating efforts from the folks, and it's hard. It's discouraging. So don't be discouraged. Keep plugging in there, keep praying about it. God God will lead, God will provide how he feels that it's best for your church and for that family. And it may be that you go to see them and they're actually plugged into somewhere else, and that's okay. Again, that's okay, as long as they've found a place to plug themselves into. So just keep praying for them. Pray that's a good place for them, and just pray for that family as they continue to grow with Christ in their spiritual journey. And then there's needs that you may find. You need to pray for those needs that you may find through Vacation Bible School. Sometimes those needs may be very simple, that you need to pray over how you can provide them. It may be helping a mom find a booster seat to get all of her kids to church at one time. She doesn't have that second booster seat. She needs to get the kids there. So pray and ask God how you can provide for the needs of these families that aren't coming, and he'll show you what they are. It may be that mom just needs a box of Pop-Tarts at the church sometimes for the kid that would not eat at home, and she just doesn't want to leave home without feeding her kids. So sometimes it's very simple things. Sometimes it might be something else. And whatever you do, the outreach part of it, just continue to pray for those families. Don't ever give up. Whatever you do, keep praying and don't give up, because that's what VBS is about. Is all about outreach. It's evangelism, and we just want to keep praying for these families that we discover the prospects. We want to keep praying for our families and our churches, that they will, like I said, grow deeper with their walk with Christ and their relationships with him. But we also want to pray for these families that we meet, and that we can reach them and bring them into our churches, so that they too, we can love on them and they can be a part of us. And so don't ever give up on anyone. Just keep praying for them.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that there is, sometimes I think we live in a vacuum, and, we don't, take the whole counsel of God and make sure that it surrounds everything that we do. Prayer just needs to happen, before, during, and after Vacation Bible School, and then some. And I love that your point about, they may not come right away. They might not come right away. They might not come ever. But fact of the matter is, if you're at the grocery store and you meet them, and you can, fellowship with them, and, see how they're doing, it's another opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that, sometimes we miss the boat there. And I loved how you said, if they don't come to your church, help facilitate them going else, Yeah, Haley says plant those seeds. Absolutely plant those seeds. I love that. Love that. All right. Well, we've got a few more minutes, and we want to think about this. What we want to think about engaging your whole church to pray, and thinking about, what are those methods? Not everybody, is going to pray out loud, right? You know, there are some people that, because I noticed in the chat, somebody said, we invite people to come forward and pray for Vacation Bible School. Well, you may not have those people. Maybe people are on vacation, or they work during the day and they can't come and help you with VBS. So we need to figure out, well, what are the methods that we can use to make sure that we engage everybody in prayer around Vacation Bible School? Because, have you heard this, Renee, that VBS is the number one leading outreach for your church.
Absolutely. It is the biggest outreach, biggest event your church is going to do for outreach every year. And of course, all the biggest majority of your baptisms are going to come through VBS. So why not be praying for that?
That's right. And you may not call it VBS. So those are some of you may be on and say, well, we'd never call ours VBS. Well, maybe you call it, just a summer block party, but whatever you're doing to engage kids and families, you need to keep that in prayer. And so let's talk about some ways. Let's talk about some ideas that we had. And I saw one of these ideas in the chat, a prayer calendar. Could be as simple as a prayer calendar. And if you do have Lifeway, there's actually a booklet, a administrative guide, and they have a prayer calendar in there. It's easy to make these prayer calendars on Canva, or if you have Microsoft Word or something like that, and you can plug your own ideas in. We'll actually make this available so that you can make it your own. Make it your own. But this is a great idea. The 30 days before VBS, put it in your bulletin and put it in every single week, 4 weeks in a row, and ask people to be praying for Vacation Bible School. Do you do anything different? Do you use the prayer calendar, Renee?
I do. And what I do with this prayer calendar is I have actually used it through our association. And,
Okay.
and what I do is I will use that as a jumping start place. And I will do most of our VBSs here kick off around the middle part of June. And so I will back it up to the middle part of May. And I will put one of those to pop on to our Facebook page once a day so that the churches can start praying for all of our VBSs in our county. And so it sort of kicks off that prayer 30 days before our VBS seasons kick off here in our county.
Yeah, I love that idea. You had mentioned it last night. I love that idea about utilizing, because this will do double duty. You can put this in your bulletin and then you can use it to do Facebook posts. Do it on your church Facebook page, right? Ask people to be
Absolutely.
praying. Yeah,
And I actually you can go in there and post these in advance. You can post these
yeah.
now to set those up to post later on. So you're not having to get up every morning and post it at 6 o'clock in the morning, because again, you don't have that time every morning. So get up, go ahead and post those things now. So they're scheduled to post. And then all you have to do is get up and pray when you get the prompt. You don't have to worry about posting it.
And again, this is another opportunity to give somebody else leadership. Give somebody else this prayer calendar. Have somebody else set up those posts for you. Maybe there's a teenager in your church that's really good with Facebook or Canva, and actually you could ask them to make a Canva, graphic for 30 days, and there'd be somebody that might could eat that up. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I
That's a
mean,
great idea.
yeah, I love doing Canva, but I don't think I would have time to do that. But there are other people that could very easily do something like this and really make an impact. So I love that idea. Love that idea. Bookmarks. How about making a bookmark? You could do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, whatever your VBS is. Put these bookmarks together. If you do it the week before VBS and you've pre-registered kids, on Monday you could pray for 5 kids. Tuesday you could pray for another 5, and so on. The only caution I would say is do not use their whole name. Use their first name and last initial, or just the first name. God knows all the details, so you don't have to do that. And, we want to be careful of people's privacy. So just make sure that if you're going to put people's names, just put their first name and last initial. So that would be helpful. But this is a great idea. Now, Renee, you mentioned this. This is the prayer cards. Is this the one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, yeah. And so your idea is And I never thought about the fact that, yeah, they didn't put the days on there, which is, the actual Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is good because you can use it anytime.
Exactly. You can use it for 5 Sundays. You can use it combine day 1 and 2 for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, however you do it, and it's great. And you could actually do that, like that. The thing that you just did, I've made it into a bookmark before, and laminated it and cut them and made them into bookmarks and used them like that before. So I've used them different ways.
Yeah. And Haley just wrote, I'm thinking of a prayer magnet. Love a prayer magnet. That's how Renee and I got connected through magnets. And now when I met you, I don't think they had the magnets where you could actually put the sticker on. I ended up purchasing mine online and it was cheap enough. But I think now, I mean, you can get blank ones and just put a sticker on. I mean, they're pretty affordable.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a great idea. And again, take what's on here and put it on your magnet. It's not,
Absolutely.
yeah. Anything we give you, when I post this, we'll give you a copy of the calendar. We'll give you a copy of all of the points that Renee made for each day, if you, I mean, before, during, and after, just so, again, look at all the information you can give a prayer coordinator here. This is what I'm asking you to do. The job's all been, you don't even have to think about it. It's all ready for you.
And they don't
So,
have to do everything. They just pick
no,
one. If they just pick one a month and go with it.
that's what I'm saying. One a month,
Yeah.
I think is great. Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
you don't have
go.
to pick you don't have to pick 12 new things. Just
Right.
pick one.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So prayer cards, prayer walking, that's a great thing that you could do at your church before VBS. During VBS, you can have. And so when I'm talking prayer walking, I'm talking praying outside your building and just walking around the building. How about getting inside the building and pray in every single classroom? Especially if you know which teachers are going to be or which stations are going to be in your church. Have that. You can even make up a little card or bulletin insert and give them prayer walking prayer points and ask people to come into the church different times during the week. Most people, if you're a church member, right? Uh, if you're a church member, you got a key to your building. There aren't very many times that I know that people don't have keys to the church, right? So,
Exactly.
you can go in anytime and go and prayer walk the church. And again, this is an awesome way for people to do it. Maybe talk to Sunday school classes and get them to do it as a group. Maybe that would be a prayer project for them that they would be praying for Vacation Bible School. If you live in a neighborhood, right? Couldn't you prayer walk the neighborhood and be praying for the potential neighbors that might be coming to your Vacation Bible School? You know, ask people to prayer walk their neighborhoods. You
I've seen
know,
that a lot of times. A lot of areas will do that and pray in individual neighborhoods or just areas. Just take a section and go to different places in the neighborhoods, in the cities and areas and towns, and do that.
yeah. And Dave says prayer walk after a Baptist
I
function.
love that.
And of
I
course,
love it.
what is the Baptist function that we all do, Dave? Write it in there. We eat, correct? So if you do a potluck like our church, we do a potluck once a month. Maybe that's an idea. You could be doing that. Okay. Now, Renee, tell us a little bit about the National Day of Prayer for VBS.
Okay, so National Day of Prayer is May 18th. It's always the Sunday after Mother's Day. And what we do is we will take some of those prompts from that prayer calendar or from that prayer card that you had on those 5 things. We find some of those help us. We've used some of those prompts before, and we will set up some foam boards in the fellowship hall. And we normally just sort of decorate them, just to get people's attention, put on there whatever it is that we want people to pray for. And we just sort of weave through the fellowship hall. People go in different directions and they stop and pray for it. We will before service begins, before our Sunday service begins, our worship service, we will walk through and we will pray for the different things at those prompt stations there. And then we will come back into, and we'll have some soft music playing while the people are walking through praying. And it's also carries over into our fellowship hall area. And so the folks are just walking through silently praying on their own at each of those stations. And then we come back into the sanctuary, and then we'll either have an altar prayer where everyone joins us at the altar and we pray there. But you could have some of your deacons to pray for specific things, and then your pastor close it out. You could do it however you wanted to. But this is a great opportunity to get the word out about your VBS, and for to promote your VBS, and to have folks praying for it. We try not to let this pass. We try to do something special each year for the day of prayer at our church. So it's definitely a time that you want to make sure you're focusing on and getting that time of prayer for your VBS, and designate that day as something to do at your church for prayer.
Yeah, and it could be that this is the day you commission your folks, your volunteers and leaders for VBS.
Yes, I've seen
Again,
that happen.
yeah, so that could be, again, it's this happens every year, and take advantage of that. It's the National Day of Prayer. There are so many churches that day that have their focus on VBS, so that's always a good one. So anyway, National Day of Prayer for VBS. And then the last one we're going to share, because we're out of time, is the wristbands. You can get some wristbands really cheap on Amazon or someplace else. I think Oriental Trading Post has them, but you can write the kids' names and ask people to commit to pray for them. So again, just their first name, maybe a last initial, but that way people will feel connected to that child. One of the things I do after VBS is birthday cards, and I ask other people in the church to take a birthday card, and with the name of the child on there, and on their birthday, write the card out. Some people have to wait for a whole year almost to do that, but it's a great opportunity for you to feel really connected to that child and say to them, hey, I've been praying for you all year. I've been praying for you for the last 4 months, and you really feel connected. So this may be an opportunity for you to pray and feel connected. So those are just some. Again, when we put out the resources, I think there's a sheet that a state did that had 52 ideas for prayer ideas. So that will be available, that I will put out with our resources. Somebody mentioned, Anne Marie mentioned, that their church does a prayer tree. And so they, again, must be in a prominent place in the church, and people can just take a prayer request. So I love that idea. That's a great idea too. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Thank you, Renee. I think this was a good opportunity for us to, again, underscore the importance of prayer. So I hope that you'll continue to put your prayer strategies in the chat, and I've written names of people who have, and I'll send you a little something extra for sharing that. So if you have any more ideas, please share with them in the chat. And again, if you have questions, please let me know. When I send out the resource sheet, it'll have my address on it, as well as Renee's, and you can contact either one of us. We're always happy to help, and we're so glad that you joined us.